It's time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I'm Gino Buccola alongside David Argona, who you have met a few times here on these shows. And I will tell all of you, David is one of the sharpest handicappers and gamblers that you'll meet in the world of horse racing. So, David, I put the pressure on you now. You're going to have to deliver for us here when we preview at Laurel Park in the Federico Tesio. How's everything going on your end?
Doing good. Looking forward to this weekend. I'm just 2 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby, but we're going to talk about a Preakness prep here, the second leg of the Triple Crown.
Yeah, we're starting to get that fever in the world of horse racing. As David mentions, we're just coming up on 2 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby. But the race that we're going to talk about in our first segment is actually a win and you're in qualifying race for the Preakness. So whoever wins this race, the Federico Tesio on Saturday at Laurel Park, will earn a spot in the Preakness 4 weeks from now. Here's a look at the field. It is a huge day of racing at Laurel Park. They have a big late pick 5 sequence, some really good stakes races, David, and thought this was an interesting group. So for this show, we'll talk about Laurel Park. In segment 2, we'll talk about a couple races from Keeneland. In segment 3, the Oaklawn Handicap, which is a big race for older horses coming up this weekend. David, let's meet the field for the Federico Tesio, and shout out to Italian Guys, because this is one of the all-time great Italian breeders out there that the race is named after. It will start with the number 1, Surfside Moon. David, he's coming off a really good effort most recently up at Aqueduct. And usually the circuits, the horses that are running in New York, just facing a little bit tougher company than some of the horses that might be running down at Laurel Park. So I think just in that sense, he's coming out of one of the better races and using some of the ratings that we have. He's one of the higher rated horses off that race. He feels like he's in a pretty good spot here, Surfside Moon.
Yeah, this is a horse that I've had some affinity for. He was actually one of my sleeper Kentucky Derby candidates going all the way back to the beginning of the season when he finished second in the Withers, an early Kentucky Derby prep last time. He got a temperature after that. The trainer had to back off. So this is kind of plan B now, running in this prep for the Preakness Stakes. But he certainly fits against this field based purely on the last race. It was a huge improvement from his 2-year-old to 3-year-old season. And when horses grow up a little bit over the wintertime, they can make those big jumps forward in their form. And it looks like that's the case for Surfside Moon.
The number 2 is named Right Wing Runner. He comes off of a second place finish. That was the first time he went a little bit longer. He looked really tired in that race late there. I'm expecting he'll be the type of horse who's going to be forwardly placed. If you look at the pace projections, he'll probably be one of the closer horses early on. I'm just not quite sure about him late, David. He looked like he was getting really tired there.
Yeah, the distance of this race, 1 1/8 miles, it's going to be a real test of stamina for a lot of these horses, and it feels like the number 2 Right Wing Runner is included among those. As you said, he just looked really tired trying a longer distance for the first time in his last race, and he's going to have to run the best race of his career to be competitive with this group.
Arcadian, the number 3, he's coming into this race off a couple races on paper that don't look great at first glance. I think a lot of people might look at this horse and kind of dismiss him because his last race, he was 5th beaten 8 lengths. And prior to that, he was 5th beaten 22 lengths. But I know you kind of like this horse a little bit as a long shot, and you can make some excuses for those races.
Yeah, I'm just kind of intrigued by his connections, apparent faith in him, because he was running in some claiming races early in his career. Claiming races are those where all the horses are for sale and you can buy horses out of the race. His prior connections lost him for $20,000, and then 2 starts later repurchased him out of a claiming race for $50,000. And now they're running him in 2 stakes races in a row. So his form doesn't look quite as good as some others in here, but I feel like he might have a better effort coming in this race.
Bull Diversion is one of the longer shots in this field. He's just stepping way up in class based on who he's been facing recently. Do you think he can compete with this group?
He has been running well as the distances get longer. Last time out, he did win a race around 2 turns like this one will be run, but it was against much weaker competition, so he's going to have to do better.
The number 5, Kentucky Outlaw, is one of the real wild cards in the race, David, because he's run twice. Both of his wins have been really easy victories, and they've basically been right on the front end in races where he's been able to kind of dictate things, and he hasn't been really pushed early on in those races. This is going to be much, much tougher for him now. He's going to be a bigger field. He's going to have to deal with some other speed and just a lot classier caliber of horse overall. How do you kind of think he stacks up with this group?
Yeah, his early speed is definitely what makes him dangerous here. You can see he's shown on a clear lead in that early pace projection in the upper right-hand graphic, and he does look like he's got the speed to get way out in front of this field early. We'll see if he can go the distance against a field of this quality, because he's been impressive in both victories so far, but he's done it against some weaker foes, so this is going to be a real class test for him.
The number 6, Studley Do Right. He's won a couple big races throughout his career, but he was one of these horses, David, that was kind of precocious early on in his career. He seemed like it didn't take him a whole lot to get onto the track and figure things out. I don't know how much he's really progressed from last year to this year, but he does have one of the better overall resumes of this group. Do you think he, is a player in here? What are you expecting from him on Saturday?
Yeah, this is a horse that I've sort of had a love-hate relationship with following his career, because you can see that there's a lot of ability there, but he's just so inconsistent from race to race. His best efforts, such as his victory in the Nashua going back to last November, or when he won the Tremont going back to last summer in New York, those kinds of performances could potentially put him in the winner's circle against a field like this. The problem is he's done that twice in 10 career starts, and more often, especially more recently, he's just been running some subpar efforts, so he's a little hard to trust.
The next one is the number 7, Sacred Thunder. He's been pretty honest overall. He's just not necessarily a win machine in his last 5 or 6 races, but he rarely runs a bad race, David, and he has a little bit of versatility to him. I could see this being like an under exotic horse. I'm just not quite sure if he has the step up and win effort in him. What do you think about Sacred Thunder?
Yeah, this would be a really nice horse to have in your barn if you're an owner or a trainer, because he runs every 3 to 4 weeks, puts forth the same kind of effort every time, usually picks up a check. He's been, I think, in the money in 11 of his 12 races, first, second, or third. So he continues to do well, but he's competing against a slightly tougher field than he's been facing in recent starts here. And he's one that has to prove that he can keep getting better as the distances get longer, because he'll need to.
As gamblers, sometimes we're all a little happily delusional. And happily delusional is a great name for a horse, David. He comes off of a runner-up effort last time out. He was second behind the number 5, Kentucky Outlaw, who just a lot faster than him early on. So he happily delusional is probably hoping that they go really fast early in this race. That would set him up to come running late.
Yeah, he's a horse that's just been well beaten by a couple of rivals that he faces here. You mentioned Kentucky Outlaw. 2 races back, he was beaten by Right Wing Runner, who we're not really confident is necessarily a contender in this race. So he's just going to have to really improve on his prior form to beat a field like this.
I think the next horse is a major, major player, the number 9, Pay Billy. You go through his last 4 races, David. He's a nose beat away from being 4 for 4 during that stretch. He's won a stakes race most recently in the private terms, and he has the running style where he wants to be close, but he showed us that he can sit off a little bit and pass horses. So I just expect him to be in the mix throughout. I think this is a really good spot for a horse who just seems to be improving at the right time.
Yeah, and we talked about the number 7, Sacred Thunder, being a really good yardstick for this field. Well, Pay Billy has easily beaten him the last couple of times, so those feel like legitimate performances. And he's a nose shy from having won 4 races in a row. And in that one loss, you can tell he really didn't want to lose that race. He was battling back all the way to the finish line. So this horse certainly knows how to get the job done.
And then we round out the field with the 10, Just a Fair Shake. David, this is a really honest horse. If you're looking at his ratings, they are kind of a cut below, but he's very, very solid in his 3 races so far. And I think he might be a nice horse down the line. This is a tough spot, but I could use him underneath in like the 3rd and 4th spots if you're looking for a fun long shot to complete some of your exotics. Give us some quick thoughts on the 10, Just a Fair Shake.
Yeah, he's a horse that showed some ability during his 2-year-old season last year. He came back off the break last time and ran pretty well. He won the race against weaker competition. He looked a little unfocused through the stretch, so he's going to have to run a more complete race this time. He's just drawn in a really tough post position because he's drawn 10 of 10, furthest away from the rail, and they go right into that bend at Laurel. So he's got to avoid losing ground going into that turn.
As we move to selections here, you can see how David is going to stack them up in this race with the 1 on top of the 9. And don't forget, folks, you can catch a lot more from David Argona on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel or on X at Horse to Watch. David, thanks so much, buddy. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks for having me, Gino.
We'll be right back, and when we do, we'll head over to Keeneland for a couple stakes with Roberto.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
Would bring a lot of money to the tribes, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC. That is King Ty Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
For our next segment, we're going to head on over to Keeneland. Very excited to talk with a good friend of the Daily Racing Form from DRF in Espanol, Roberto Rodriguez. Roberto, thanks so much for joining us. And it's a really busy time for you because you're broadcasting from Keeneland every single day in Spanish. Let everybody know out there a little bit more about the Keeneland broadcast that you have going on.
Thanks, Gino. It's been crazy, but it's been fun as well at the same time. So we are broadcasting live every day from Keeneland. Actually, it's the first time ever that we do the whole meet from Keeneland. Usually we do, just the opening weekend and then the opening weekend and a few more days. But now for the first time, we are very, happy to be doing this. It's tiring, but at the same time, excited, to be able to broadcast every single show from Keeneland, every single race. Actually, it's on our YouTube channel, and also it's available on drfnespanol.com.
And we are able to provide great insight for more and more people around the world and be able to get that information in their native language and be able to get it in the language that they understand the most. So, Roberto, we appreciate you being such a great ambassador for racing and being able to extend that bridge to so many other people who might not get that great information. But now the pressure's on because we got to give the folks a couple of winners out here, right? It's handicapping time, and we only have a few minutes for our segment. So a couple big stakes races on Saturday, Roberto, that we're going to talk about. First up is race number 9 on Saturday. It's the Grade 2 Elkhorn. So we have horses going long on the turf here, 1.5 miles on the grass. We're looking at the morning line. The number 6 horse, Limited Liability, is 8-5. He's coming off a really good effort most recently at Gulfstream Park, where he was part of a fast pace. He finished third. He was only beaten a neck in a Grade 3 race. So he's coming into this race off some really nice efforts. Do you think he's the horse to beat? And who are some of the horses on your radar in this one?
I think he's the horse to beat. But, this is a very short price, 8-5. I mean, it's a 1.5 mile race. I like Miss the Cut, the number 9. I think that they come from the same race, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And no, they don't come from the same
They were
race.
both at Gulfstream Park.
They both ran on Gulfstream, correct. They both ran on Gulfstream. But this horse is, Jerry DeVoe hasn't been doing as good as she was doing at Fairgrounds, but I still like this horse. I mean, if you see his campaign, he was a very solid horse in 2024. They took him to Ascot. It's not easy for a horse recover after you run on Ascot. People think, oh, it's Dubai World Cup. It's hard to recover a horse. or Saudi Cup. Same thing applied to tour horses when they try Ascot.
Missed the Cut was running here last year in the U.S. and was running so well. In fact, in this exact race, the Elkhorn was second last year behind a really nice horse named Silver Knot. And then when horses have to travel internationally, think about it. It's like with an athlete might have to go and play in the Olympics or might have to go and play in a World Cup. It takes so much out of you, that travel, and you're going to probably take a few races till you're able to build that stamina back up. Roberto, I completely agree with you. I think it's going to be like a big time improved effort from what we saw from Miss the Cut last time out. Because what's nice, we know what his A game is. Yep. If he were to show up with one of those best efforts, we're just hoping now that Cherie has set him up to run his best race, second start back in the country.
And I think if you look at the last two workouts, the workouts on March 28th, 46-3, that's a really good workout.
Yep.
That tells me this horse is back to the old form. And you also, as you watch the replay of the Mac Diarmida, this horse, he finished sixth, but just 2.5 lanes behind with problem. He checked
legitimate
twice.
Trouble.
Exactly. And he was the favorite. And now it's 6-1. I prefer to take 6-1, 7-1 instead of, 8-5 on the favorite, the number 6.
We're seeing this race very similarly. I thought the 9 would just offer you more value at 6-1 than that 8-5 on the morning line that you're going to get with limited liability. Just a few more seconds on this race, Roberto. Any other horses you want to mention underneath as long shots?
Yeah, underneath, you have to play a Sacta. You have to take advantage of the 15%, low takeout on the Sactas in Keeneland. He's been doing so well for me, so I want to keep going. So I would include the 6. I will include the number 12. This horse was a scratch the last time they entry at Keeneland, so we'll see how it does here. And the number 2, Grand Sonata. I think he always ran well, so I think he deserves a shot here.
So that's the 9th race, the Elkhorn, where they'll be on the turf. We move to race number 10 at Keeneland on Saturday. This one is the Grade 3 Ben Ali. It's a race for older horses traveling 1 mile and 3/16, and they're going to be on the dirt in here, Roberto. And there's really no standout in this race. For like a graded stakes race, you have a lot of different horses that are coming in from different places. I think you could make a case for basically every horse in this field. Who are some of the horses that were on your radar that you want to be using in here?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify this. You say Ben Ali. I hear some race callers saying Ben Ali.
Okay, there we go.
This is white people language. To correct you, please forgive me if I'm wrong. All right.
There we go.
No, I like a long shot here. Tennessee Lamb,
yes.
Number 3. I mean, I love the third race of the cycle. I mean, either it's third race after layup or third race after the debut with not winning the first 2 races. And Rusty Arnold and Jose Ortiz, they doing really well when they're together, especially at Keeneland. So I think this horse is legit. This is number 3. It's 8-1. And if you see the prior race, before last race, they ran on the turf. And then they switch to dirt, and he improved, the Bayer speed figure 14 points, and he won by a pole. He could have won by more that day. Johnny V was just,
One of the things about that race, Bruno, there's not that much early speed. I have the 3 picked and the second spot because of that. I think could sit a really nice trip, Tennessee Lamb. Give a look to the 2, Prince of Power, who might be able to steal this race up front. Here's how Roberto stacks him up in race number 10, the Ben Ali. Here's how I stack him up with the 2 on top of the 3. Roberto, we're going to be checking out DRF and Espanol on the YouTube channel all throughout the Keeneland meet. Thanks so much, buddy. Have a great rest of your day.
Oh, thank you, Gino. Thank you, everyone. Feels it's a privilege, to represent this brand. So let's keep going.
And let's head on over to Oaklawn Park for our final segment.
Fantasy baseball. Let's be honest, George. There's a lot of things antiquated about this game that we love. Man, like I would love to try some new little wrinkles here. And so for Sam's question here on the show, I think it's at least fair to ask the question, with catchers in fantasy baseball, and sometimes we're playing in 2 catcher leagues, why at this stage of the game? I have no idea. If you're still doing it, you're behind in the times. Buy or sell, catchers should get a fantasy point for throwing out runners trying to steal. So essentially awarding a defensive play to get an offensive point in fantasy. You gonna buy or sell this?
I mean, so this never even crossed my mind. I hate the catcher position because they get hurt so much. You play in a 2-catcher league, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's like, what are we doing here? There are not 24, assuming a 12-team league, there are not 24 catchers to draft in baseball. There's just not. Although I'm the first person to tell you, Herrera's probably out there in a bunch of leagues there because we didn't see that power coming. Should he get a point? I think he's going to do this, by the way. Why a point? What are you throwing out? 1, 2 base runners a week? It's 2 points. Who cares? You know, should it be more? I mean, if we're going to do this, shouldn't we do it right? Should it be 5 points? You know, so I would probably go that direction. If you're going to do it right. Give it more points. And by the way, then let's go further. You make an error, you're losing points. No one gets an error anymore. All right, if you get an error, it means you really screwed up. I was watching that Yankee-Pittsburgh game yesterday because I think it was who cares? Somebody hit the ball hard to Isaiah Felifa. It's a shortstop. He didn't have to move, but he dropped it. They called it a hit because he hit the ball hard with 3-hopper. Oh, hard hit, error. So let's do that too. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with this, but you need more than one. It can't just be a point that's meaningless. You need more than one.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
For our final segment this week, we're going to head on over to Oaklawn Park. It's a really good renewal of the Oaklawn Handicap. It's going to go as race number 11 on Saturday at Oaklawn. There's a field of 8. I like a horse who's 15-1 on the morning line. We've got to give a big thank you to David Argona and to Roberto for joining us in our first couple of segments. I'll finish things off for you and see if we can lead you in the right direction and get you a winner to close it out. So let's meet the field here. We can start with the number 1, Go West Go. This is a race where they're running for $1.25 million. So big money up for grabs here. Go West Go is going to be stepping up. He's just not in the best of form as of late. So this is going to be a much tougher group than what he's faced. That's why he's 30-1 on the morning line. You can see the odds there. We can move to the number 2, Disarm. He's an interesting horse because a couple years ago, he was a 3-year-old and he ran in the Kentucky Derby. He ran 4th. And he ran in the Travers and the Jim Dandy, some of the really top tier races for 3-year-olds. So coming off of that, last year in 2024, we were expecting him to have grown up and developed and expecting a really big year from him. It was kind of disappointing last year, but he was off from September all the way to March. And when he showed back up in March, he ran a really good race. Maybe they figured things out. It's not always linear, right? For how athletes improve. A horse is the same way. We're not robots. It's not machinery. You don't just have, a projection that you can follow. Everything is a little bit different. And I think that might be the case for Disarm. He could run a really big race in here. Moving to the 3, First Mission. He's one of the horses to beat. He's 2-1 on the morning line. So he has the shortest odds in the field. He comes into this race, though, off a 3rd place finish. And the 2 horses that were in front of him are both back in this race. Now, the way that the track was playing when First Mission ran most recently, it didn't really play well to horses that were coming from off the pace. So if you were up front early, the track was really kind to horses that were showing speed. We see this a lot of times, like in tennis with different surfaces, or if you're running in a track meet and sometimes the surface plays to the horses on the front end. Wind will factor, those types of things. I expect First Mission to run a good race in here. He's one of the horses to beat, but you're not going to get rich betting him at just 2-1. Moving on to Skippy Longstocking. This is a horse who has earned over $3 million in his career. He is a really cool 6-year-old, hard-knocking horse. Most recently, he won a stakes race over at Tampa Bay Downs, and he finished 3rd in the Pegasus World Cup, which is a really big race run at Gulfstream Park. So Skippy Longstocking feels like he's one of the major players in this race. In fact, he actually was in this very same race last year and won this race. So he's trying to go back-to-back in the Oaklawn Handicap. Moving to the number 5, Alexander Helios. He's kind of a on-the-rise horse. He's won 2 in a row. He just beat Banishing. He just beat First Mission, but he did get a really good setup in the race that he won last time out. So you want to make sure that you don't get too short of a price on him, because things played very, very well for him. And in horse racing and in any kind of sport, you don't necessarily want to bet a team or a horse or an athlete off of maybe their best effort, because sometimes it's tough to put that best effort back to back. You're not going to usually get the efficient races or the efficient games back to back. Tarantino, next one up. Like the films, but I'm not sure if he's going to fit in this particular spot. He will be showing some good early speed. He'll be part of the race early on. I just don't know if he'll be hanging around late. The number 7, Banishing, to me was sort of the trickiest horse in this field. I had a tough time figuring out what to do with him, because his best races are going a little bit shorter. This race is 1 mile and 1/8, and I feel like that's just too far for Banishing, but he's got so much ability. Sometimes horses that are really good can go outside their scope because of that talent. So I won't really want to talk you off Banishing. I just like some others a little bit more in here. Rounding out the field, it's the number 8, Red Route 1. And if you look at the projection, you see the 8, he's way in the back. You know what you're going to get from Red Route 1. He's going to drop back. He will likely be last early in the field. He hopes that they're going fast early, and I think on paper, it looks like there are a few horses that are all going to be pushing each other early on. And when they push each other, it's going to set up for a horse coming from off the pace, and I think that's Red Route 1, the number 8, who is 15-1 on the morning line. He will be my top selection for the Oaklawn Handicap. So wish you all the best of luck this weekend, whether you're playing the races at Oaklawn, whether you're playing at Keeneland or over at Laurel Park. Remember to head to shop.drf.com before you play the races. And if you ever need any extra help, we have a great resource at our YouTube channel as well. You can scan the QR code right there. It'll take you to get the free picks, the data, the analysis at shop.drf.com. Good luck this weekend.
New to casinos and not sure what to play? Well, try blackjack first. It has a lower house advantage compared to other table games, making it especially player-friendly. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, we need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.